Give them space to grow. Don't label them as the person that they were when we met them to where they will always be that person. If you've been working with teenagers for any amount of time, you know that they're just different. They're different from you. Depending on the age gap, they say and do things that we don't understand. I'm getting older, right? And they do some strange things. And so did we as kids. And I'll be honest with teenagers, when I work with them, I look, I will respect you. And sometimes adults, we struggle respecting you because we don't understand y'all. Y'all do some crazy stuff. And they start to laugh because they would agree with that. But so did we as kids, and the adults didn't understand us. But I believe this, even though we don't fully understand them, I think we need to do this. Give them space to grow. Give them space to grow, to be the person that God is making them to be and who we want them to be, because we're pouring into them. What I mean by that is this. I'm not saying we don't hold them accountable, we don't call them out on their junk, but what we do is this. Give them space to grow. Don't label them as the person that they were when we met them to where they will always be that person. For an example, if you meet them when they're 12, they're being really silly, 13, 14, hopefully they've grown over the years, over the months, because guess what? We're not the same people we were last month, last year, so give them space to grow as well. I think a two illustration helped me think about that when I deal with not just teenagers, deal with anybody, give everybody space to grow, but especially in this context, the teenagers. And the first example is in John chapter 20, starting at verse 24. It's of a guy that people call Doubting Thomas. He's been labeled that, but did he always doubt? Let's read it. John chapter 20, starting at verse 24. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand in his side, I will never believe." Well, 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet have believed." Now, when I think of that story, when I was growing up, he was still called Doubting Thomas because he doubted one time, but after he saw Jesus, he believed. He even said, "My Lord and my God." He was not the same person 8 days later when he told him he would never believe. Now he saw Jesus, he believed, but he was labeled that. And what I really thought was interesting here too, Jesus didn't label him. Jesus gave him space to grow because Jesus wasn't there with them when he said that he wouldn't believe, but Jesus knew, right? Because Jesus knows all things, so Jesus is God. He told him, hey, he invited him, "Put your finger here. See, it's me." And I think that's the beautiful thing about the Lord, that he gives us space to grow. And we should be giving other people space to grow, especially as our teens. Give them space to grow. A second illustration, I think, is of planting and growing plants. One day my wife, she called me in the kitchen, said, "Hey, can you help me move this? I need to break this pot because I'm trying to take it out of this pot and put it in a bigger pot because the roots got so big," right? So she wanted to break it. And I said, "Well, let me see." So I grabbed it, kind of wiggled a little bit, picked it up, put it in there. I was the man. I felt good at that time. But the point is this, that pot, in order for it to grow, we need to give it space to grow so it can grow the way it needs to grow. Same thing with the students you work with. Give them space to grow, just like God gave us space to grow. Think about that as you interact with teenagers. Hopefully it's helpful for you and for them to live for God by connecting faith and life. Peace! That train, we need to get this insulated so we don't hear all that. Yeah.